At 18, I was thrown out with nothing but a single bag. And the abandoned house everyone was afraid of became the reason I rose from dust to riches. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Before we begin, make sure you join our YouTube family by subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss a story. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your country. Now, let's begin the story. I was 18 when my life changed in the harshest way possible. The argument started small, like many others before it, but this time it didn't end with silence or forgiveness. My father's voice was cold, tired, and final. He pointed toward the door and said words I never believed I would hear. Leave if you think you're grown. Survive on your own. I stood there, frozen, waiting for someone to stop him, waiting for my mother to say something, but no one did. Within minutes, my clothes were thrown into an old bag, and the door slammed behind me. The evening air felt heavier than usual. I had no money, no phone balance, and no plan. The street that once felt familiar suddenly looked strange and endless. People passed by without noticing that an 8-year-old boy had just lost his home. I walked without direction, trying to convince myself this was temporary. Maybe they would call me back. Maybe tomorrow everything would be normal again. But deep down, I knew something had ended forever. Night arrived quickly. Hunger started as a small discomfort, but grew into sharp pain. I sat near a roadside tea stall, watching others eat while counting the few coins in my pocket. They weren't enough for a full meal, so I bought the cheapest bread and stretched it for hours. That night, I slept on a bench at a bus stop, waking every few minutes from cold wind and passing noise. Fear wasn't loud. It was quiet and constant. The next morning, reality hit harder. I needed shelter. Walking outside the city limits, I followed a dirt road surrounded by dry land and scattered trees. After hours of walking, I noticed something in the distance, an old abandoned house. Its walls were cracked, windows broken, and half the roof looked like it might collapse at any moment. Dust covered everything, and weeds grew through the floor. Most people would see danger. I saw survival. Carefully, I stepped inside. The air smelled old, like forgotten memories trapped for years. Sunlight entered through broken holes in the roof, creating golden lines across floating dust. There was no electricity, no furniture, nothing useful, only silence. Yet for the first time since being kicked out, I felt protected from the outside world. I cleaned a small corner using a piece of cloth from my bag. Broken wood became my bed frame. Cardboard became my mattress. And my backpack became a pillow. That night, lying under a damaged ceiling, while stars peeked through cracks, I made a promise to myself. I would not beg, and I would not quit. The early days were brutal. I searched trash piles for recyclable items, collected scrap metal, and learned which shops bought old materials. Every morning I walked kilometers, carrying heavy loads just to earn enough for food. Some days people laughed at me. Others ignored me completely. But each coin felt like proof that I could survive without anyone's help. Slowly, I started repairing the abandoned house. I fixed one window using plastic sheets. I patched roof holes with metal scraps. I cleared dust from the floor until the place started looking less like ruins and more like a shelter. Each improvement gave me energy. The house wasn't just protecting me anymore, it was becoming part of me. Loneliness was the hardest enemy. Nights were long, filled with thoughts about my family and questions without answers. Sometimes I wondered if they missed me. Sometimes anger replaced sadness. But every sunrise reminded me that I was still standing. One afternoon, while resting outside, an old man passing by stopped and asked why I lived there. I told him the truth. Instead of pity, he gave advice. Hard times either break you or build you. Decide quickly which one you want. Those words stayed with me. From that day, I stopped seeing myself as a victim and started acting like a builder of my own future. I began fixing broken items. People threw away chairs, small fans, metal frames. I watched repair videos whenever I found free internet near shops. Trial and error became my teacher. Some repairs failed, but others worked. And slowly I earned more money. People started recognizing me as the boy who could fix things cheaply. Weeks turned into months. The abandoned house changed alongside me. One corner became a small workspace. Another became a cooking area made from bricks and stones. I planted seeds behind the house using leftover vegetables. Watching tiny plants grow gave me unexpected hope. Despite the progress, life remained uncertain. Rainstorms flooded parts of the house, and some nights I barely slept from fear the roof might collapse. But every challenge made me stronger. I learned to adapt, to solve problems with creativity instead of money. One evening, sitting outside as the sun disappeared, I realized something powerful. Being kicked out had taken my comfort, but given me freedom. No one controlled my decisions anymore. Every success and every failure belonged to me alone. I didn't know then that the dusty ground beneath that broken house was hiding a secret that would change everything. At that moment, I was simply an 18-year-old survivor, living day by day, turning ruins into refuge, and slowly discovering strength I never knew existed inside me. Life inside the abandoned house slowly followed a rhythm. Every morning began before sunrise because daylight meant opportunity. I would step outside, breathe the cool air, and remind myself that surviving another day was already a victory. The broken walls no longer felt frightening. They felt familiar. The condor had become my silent partner, watching me grow stronger with every passing week. My repair work started gaining attention in nearby areas. Shopkeepers, who once ignored me, began saving broken items instead of throwing them away. Old fans, rusty bicycles, damaged tools, everything became a chance to earn. I learned quickly that people didn't care about where you came from if you could solve their problems. Skill became my identity, replacing the label of the boy who was kicked out. Still, money was small and unstable. Some days I earned enough to eat well. Other days I survived on tea and bread. I kept a small metal box hidden under a loose floor tile where I stored every extra coin. Saving even a little felt powerful. It meant progress. One afternoon, heavy winds brought a dust storm that covered the entire area in thick brown air. I rushed inside the house, holding the weak door closed while sand forced its way through every crack. When the storm ended, half the backyard was buried under fresh layers of dust. Cleaning it felt impossible, but I started anyway, shovel in hand, clearing space so I could continue growing vegetables. That decision changed my life. As I dug deeper behind the house, my shovel struck something hard with a sharp metallic sound. At first, I thought it was just a rock, but after clearing more dirt, I noticed the edge of rusted metal. Curiosity replaced exhaustion. I dug faster, heart beating louder with every movement. Slowly, an old iron box appeared, locked and heavy, covered in years of soil. For a moment, I hesitated. The box looked ancient, almost like it belonged to another time. My hands trembled as I dragged it inside. The lock was weak from rust. After several attempts using a hammer and metal rod, it finally broke open. Inside were wrapped papers, old coins, and photographs faded by age. The coins looked unusual, heavier, and different from modern currency. The documents were written in formal language I struggled to understand, filled with stamps and signatures. At first, I assumed they were worthless memories left behind by whoever once owned the house, but something told me not to ignore them. The next day, I carried the documents carefully to a small legal office in town. The lawyer, an elderly man with glasses resting low on his nose, examined them silently for several minutes. His expression slowly changed from boredom to surprise. He asked me where I found them. When I explained, he leaned back and said words that didn't make sense at first. The abandoned property, according to those documents, belonged to a family that disappeared decades ago. The land had never been officially claimed again because records were incomplete. The papers inside the box included ownership transfers, connected to inheritance conditions, conditions tied to whoever maintained and occupied the property after abandonment. I didn't fully understand, but the lawyer explained. Patiently, by living there, repairing it, and proving continuous occupation, I might legally qualify to claim rights to the land under old regional property laws. The idea felt unreal. Just months earlier, I had nowhere to sleep. Now someone was telling me the ruined house could legally become mine. The process wasn't easy. Weeks turned into months of paperwork, verification visits, and endless waiting. Officials inspected the property. Neighbors confirmed that I had been living there, and historical records were searched. During this time, doubt followed me constantly. What if it failed? What if everything disappeared again? While waiting, I continued working harder than ever. I improved the house further, building stronger supports using scrap wood and metal. I painted sections of the wall using leftover paint from construction sites. Slowly, the place began looking less abandoned and more alive. Word spread around the area about the boy restoring the old ruin. Some people came just to see it. Others offered small work opportunities. For the first time, I felt respect instead of pity. People started greeting me by name. One evening, the lawyer visited unexpectedly. His smile told me the news before he spoke. The legal review had been approved. Temporary ownership rights were granted under restoration and occupancy laws, with full transfer pending final registration. I stood speechless. The ground beneath my feet, the same dusty land where I once slept hungry, now legally belonged to me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat outside under the stars, staring at the house. Memories rushed back: the slammed door, cold nights, hunger, loneliness. Everything that felt like punishment had secretly been preparation. But the biggest change came next. A local businessman heard about the property approval and visited to see the land. He explained that the area was slowly developing, and the land held unexpected value because of nearby future construction plans. Suddenly, people who never noticed the ruin before, offers started coming small at first, then larger. Numbers I had never imagined hearing were spoken casually in conversations. For the first time, I understood that survival had placed me exactly where opportunity was hiding. Yet I didn't rush. The house was more than land. It was proof of who I had become. Instead of selling immediately, I decided to improve it further, believing its value and my future could grow even more. Standing inside the once broken condor, now partially restored by my own hands, I realized something powerful. I had entered this place as a homeless boy, but I was slowly becoming a man with purpose, ownership, and vision. I still didn't know how far this journey would go, but one thing was certain: the dust that once covered my life was beginning to turn into gold. The approval papers felt unreal in my hands. I read my name again and again, afraid it might disappear if I blinked. Just months earlier, I had been sleeping on cardboard inside a collapsing ruin. Now the same land officially recognized me as its owner. But ownership did not instantly change my life. It changed my responsibility. The next morning, I walked around the property slowly, seeing everything differently. The cracked walls were no longer signs of failure. They were opportunities waiting for transformation. I realized that wealth was not only money, it was vision. And for the first time, I had one. Instead of selling the land immediately, I made a risky decision. I would build something valuable myself. Everyone advised me to take the money and leave. But deep inside, I knew this place had given me a second life. I wanted to grow with it, not abandon it. I began planning improvements step by step. Using my savings and small advance payments from repair jobs, I strengthened the structure of the house. I replaced broken wooden beams with metal supports collected from scrapyards. I cleaned the entire surrounding land. Removing years of waste and overgrown plants, the transformation attracted attention from locals, who passed by daily and watched the progress. Soon, people started asking if I could repair items for them directly at the property. That idea sparked something bigger. I converted part of the house into a small workshop. Old tools hung neatly on walls that once crumbled. A handmade sign outside read, "Repair and Restore." It was simple, but it marked the beginning of my first real business. Customers slowly increased. Farmers brought broken equipment. Students brought damaged bicycles. Shopkeepers brought fans and machines. I worked long hours, sometimes until midnight, but exhaustion felt different now. It felt meaningful. One afternoon, a man wearing formal clothes arrived in a car far nicer than anything I had ever seen up close. He introduced himself as a local developer interested in nearby land projects. He explained that new roads and small commercial buildings were planned in the area within a year. My property, once ignored, now sat in a valuable location. He offered to buy the land for an amount so large, my hands shook. It was more money than my family had ever seen. For a moment, I imagined an easy life, a new house, comfort, security. But then I looked at the workshop, the repaired walls, and the place that had saved me when no one else did. I asked for time to think. That night, I remembered every struggle: hunger, loneliness, doubt. Selling quickly felt like escaping again instead of growing. I realized I didn't want sudden wealth. I wanted lasting success. The next day, instead of selling, I proposed a partnership. The developer seemed surprised but interested. Together, we planned to convert part of the land into small rental workshops while keeping my repair business at the center. Construction began months later. Watching workers build structures where dust once ruled felt surreal. I learned about contracts, budgeting, and planning. Mistakes happened, and I faced losses and stress. But each challenge taught lessons no school ever had. As new shops opened, rental income started flowing steadily. My small workshop expanded into a restoration center, employing several young people who, like me, had struggled to find direction. I trained them not only to repair machines, but to believe in second chances. News of the transformation spread beyond the town. People came to see how an abandoned condor turned into a growing business hub. Some called it luck, others called it destiny. But I knew the truth. It was persistence built day by day when no one was watching. The biggest moment came when I received my first large payment from the partnership profits. Sitting alone inside the renovated house, I stared at the amount transferred into my account. Tears came unexpectedly, not because of money, but because I remembered the boy who once counted coins just to buy bread. Years passed, and success continued growing. The property evolved into a lively space filled with workshops, small businesses, and people chasing their own dreams. I built a proper home on one side of the land, simple but strong, keeping one section of the original wall untouched as a reminder of where everything began. One evening, I received a message from my family after a long silence. They had heard about my success. Meeting them again was emotional and complicated, filled with apologies and quiet understanding. I realized that forgiveness was another form of freedom. The anger I carried slowly faded, standing outside at sunset, looking at lights shining across the property. I understood something important. Being kicked out did not ruin my life. It forced me to discover it. The dust that once covered my clothes became the foundation beneath my feet. The broken house that looked worthless became the doorway to opportunity. I was 18 when I lost everything. I survived inside ruins, fought loneliness, and learned to build with nothing but determination. And now, every brick around me told the same story. Sometimes the place where you fall is exactly where your rise begins. From dust to rich was never about sudden fortune. It was about becoming stronger than the circumstances that tried to define me. The old condor still stands at the heart of everything I built, reminding me daily that greatness can grow from the most forgotten places, and that survival, when mixed with courage, can turn even ruins into a future filled with light.